from their own agreements that they're managing. We've been working very closely with them. We continue to work with them to try and help them understand the unique challenges we have, because this hits us twofold. One is that I have to budget for this on the revenue side as a revenue stream, so I need to make it as accurate as possible. But secondly, the pilot information goes in my formula for my property tax levy cap, because it does. It's one of the components that we've been communicating with the state to say, you don't understand how this data, the swings that we're seeing, significantly swing our property tax levy for something we have no control over. These are arrangements that we don't get to weigh in on. Mrs. Fallon, Mr. Gerenswald as board president, we have no authority to say, we love it, we hate it, nothing. But we're the recipient of some of that money. So these challenges, we've been working with the IDAs to try and help them understand the uniqueness of it, how it impacts us, and then on the flip side, we're communicating with the state to make sure they understand how it's impacting our local formulas and the swings that we're experiencing. So for use of reserves and fund balance, which is our next largest piece of revenue, we're proposing using reserves at the same level that we've been using them the past number of years. And then we're also looking at something called the appropriated fund balance, which is another use of a savings account we have, but we're looking at using that at a lower level than we've done in the past. And the reason very specifically why we're doing that is because of the state controller. You may have read in the paper that the state controller has audited school districts across Long Island and the state, and has started to criticize school districts for utilizing some of that fund balance at the end of the year to reduce taxes for the following year. And they're asking for districts to begin to pare down the use of that money. So we haven't been audited by the controller of late. A couple of years ago, about 5 years ago, they were in here. And we know that if they came in, we're following that same practice that other school districts across Long Island are using. So we're trying to get ahead of the curve and pare down the use of that appropriated fund balance in this upcoming budget. The last piece of our revenue is this catch-all of other, and it includes a number of components which are very standard items. They don't necessarily vary from year to year. The other revenue total from this past year was about $1.7 million, so the swing is not significant. But two pieces I wanted to point out in this category of other revenue, which make it a little bit unique and different from prior years, is that the Driver's Ed and Athletics program code, where we put our fees from these two programs, we're anticipating some additional money coming in from Driver's Ed. The program that's been designed by Mr. O'Farrell has been so well received that we're seeing that more students are taking the program. We have a summer program now that we hadn't in the past, other than last year, right? Last year was our first year. So we're seeing there's more interest from students. So we're going to, this is the program that's self-funding, so we book the revenue that the parents are paying for the program, and then we book the expense, and it becomes a wash. But we're going to more accurately reflect the interest level in that particular code. So if you look at the detail, you can see that code has a little bit of a spike. And then the other piece, which we're delighted about, is the Chestnut Hill lease arrangement with Alternatives for Children. If you'll remember last year when we were closing the buildings, we didn't have an agreement in place, so we couldn't budget for the revenue. We do have an agreement in place. We're entering our second year with an escalator clause in terms of the lease payment from that organization, and we're budgeting for that there. So if you looked at that particular area, you would see an increase in that revenue code as well. So it's revenues. A couple of changes again, just the property tax levy cap could change because of state aid. So we have two pieces that might shift based on some information we hope to get April 1st. The proposed budget, so when we look at the revenue we have and then what that revenue is going to help to fund, we're looking at this point approximately a $239 million budget for 2015-16, and that increase is about $4.8 million or 2.1%. I'm just going to, I don't want to confuse the issue, but just to note that 2.42, remember, property tax levy is the red part of our pie, it's not the whole pie. So the property tax levy is going up 2.42%, but the whole budget to budget, the total to the total, is going up 2.1%. And the pieces I'll speak about next are related to the existing program that's going to remain as is, so we're not going to be reducing anything this year. We've got some exciting curriculum updates that we discussed at our prior meeting, board meeting last week, some enhanced services and some efficiencies that we're very excited about, as well as restoring some of our prior year reductions. And I'll take you through those pieces. So history of budget increases. So this is where we've been. When you look at dating back all the way from 93, 94 to what we estimate from 2015, 16, this is where our budget increases have been. We've had some lean years. We've had some years of program enhancements and TRS and VRS and healthcare costs. And then you've seen this leveling off the past 5 years or so. And again, another interesting piece when we look at this trending, if you look at that increase, we're going back to 1996, 97 that we've had such a low budget-to-budget increase. And again, we're very excited about that because we've been able to maximize the savings from the closing of facilities last year. We've had a lot of thoughtful and difficult budget processes and discussions to be able to get to this point to actually bring it back to an increase that we haven't seen in 2 decades. So restorations, as you know, we've been in these conversations. We went through a couple of difficult years, the past couple of years, with some state aid issues and some of our additional expenditure items that we needed to pare down on. So we're able to right now to restore some of the reductions we've made in the prior year budgets. We're looking at restoring 1 health teacher for the elementary level. That was something we reduced, I believe it was 2 years ago. We're looking at restoring elementary clubs. We've seen that the students at the elementary level, at the higher level, they're begging for more activities after school at the district. So we're going to be enhancing the club offerings at the elementary level. We're looking at reading specialists for the academic intervention services. That's 2 staff members, 2 reading specialists, and teacher professional development, which is an area that we've had to pare down in prior budgets. Curriculum updates that we've discussed these previously, but for the benefit of those who weren't at the last board meeting, I just put them down on the next couple of slides. But again, these are items that we included into the budget number that I just mentioned, that $239 million number. These are items that we put in and that we are still in discussions with the board about based on the initial conversations from last week. So in mathematics, we're looking at a computer programming sequence. A lot of what was discussed last week by the directors and coordinators was about really updating our curriculum to really come forward and try and integrate different discipline areas together. In the fine arts area, we're looking at course and curriculum updates, including digital design and digital game design courses, filmmaking, photography, stage, craft, and lighting clubs at the high schools. All in response to what our teachers are very excited to grow our curriculum with and what we're hearing from students that they'd love to get more involved with. In phys ed last week, we spoke about introducing physical education in a different format by introducing different strands. So we would have individual strands, group strands, and then an outdoor educational component. And in social studies, looking at curriculum, strategy, and skill development in support of the new standards. So again, all this was discussed in great detail at last week's board meeting, so I'm not going to go through it again, but just for the benefit of those who aren't able to attend. Existing student services that we're looking to enhance. We had a little bit of a demo on an ELA reading initiative, English Language Arts Reading Initiative. It's a program called MyOn, which is an online personalized digital library where students would be able to log in and they would be able to establish a reading level, a lexicon level, and then have their reading tracked and have recommendations made to them, and then it would be brought back to the teacher to be able to design curriculum and design instruction that best meets their reading levels. A very exciting program that we'd be able to expand. I believe we're looking at district-wide on that. The STEM and LEGO engineering clubs at the middle school. We have similar clubs at the elementary school and clearly at the high school with robotics. We don't have that at the middle school level. So Mr. Fabrazzo spoke last week about bridging that gap, and so we're very excited about offering those clubs at the middle school level. And then an elementary after-school support program for at-risk students to help close the achievement gap, which is always an initiative of ours. So that would be an additional service for those students. We are looking at technology professional development. As we continue to invest in technology, we need to make sure that students and staff are fully trained on how to integrate that new technology so that we're maximizing its use. At the secondary level, we had a little bit of a pilot at West Hollow Middle School, and we are very excited to try and grow it where we have 21st century study centers for students. So comfortable and kind of different format, different setup for traditional study spaces, but students would be encouraged to work together. So kind of like a library, but a little bit more 21st century, so they can start working together and working collaboratively on projects and utilizing the technology that we provide, and then hopefully at one point what they bring in to the district. And then we have cheerleading startup program costs. Cheerleading has become an official sport, so we're looking to invest in the cheerleading sport as we do the other teams here at the district. Mandates. The biggest, there are always mandates that the state is imposing on us. This year was particularly a very challenging one. I'm going to introduce my colleague, Ms. Trigoso. She is going to speak about the English language learner mandates and some of the changes that it means for us, and then we'll talk about what the budget implications are for them.
Essentially establishes regulations for entitlements that English language learners should receive in their academic program in order to ensure their academic success.